Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokemon Emerald video. Today I will be using the other pseudo-legendary of this generation. Salamance is considered to be an extremely strong Pokemon and I'm sure it had a lot of success in the competitive scene. Today we will be using him in a PvE environment though, and most importantly, we are going to start with him from the start of the game. So if the early game is rough, that might impact his performance. Anyway, let me get over the rules real quick. I can only use my starter in combat, I can't use items from my bag in battle, I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. Fortunately for him, Salamance's starting moves are pretty good. It starts off with both Headbutt and Bite. The first one is a solid physical move, and the second one might be an option for Roxanne. The nature I got is a bit unfortunate since it increases my special attack, which is the worst of the two attacking stats. On the other hand though, it will increase the damage that I will be able to deal with the dragon and fire moves and maybe something else too. As you might expect, the first few fights in the game were a breeze. My great physical attack plus headbutt is enough to sweep through pretty much everything. Where things might have been a bit bad is Roxanne, since she uses rock types. And given the fact that I am a part flying type, their stab moves will hurt quite a bit. Our ability Intimidate helps a bit with that, but it only works on the first Pokemon, which is generally the least threatening in any given team. Things did get a bit close, but thanks to Bite hitting them on the special side, I was able to defeat the first gym leader at a somewhat lower level than usual. Today, after defeating her and getting her badge, I also included the fight against the Team Aqua Grunt in the cave. Pretty much in every run, one single attack is enough to one-shot his single Poochyena, so that's why I never include it. Next, we have the optional fight against May just before leaving town. She is a bit stronger now, but unfortunately for her, all three of the starter types are not very effective against a dragon, so there is not a whole lot she will be able to do to me. Next, I took on Brawly, which might be a bit scary since I only have normal and dark moves. But once again, since my typing allows me to resist their stab moves, this should be fine. The only thing I have to be careful about is not to allow them to set up many bulk ups, otherwise my physical attacks will do nothing to them. Things do get a bit scary against Makuhita since I was running out of PPs, but fortunately I was able to deal just enough damage to dodge the potion range. After defeating the second gym leader, we can resume the story and get to Slateport, where we find more Team Aqua Grunts harassing some random people. As usual, they were not a big deal, their Pokémons are very frail, so even though my moveset is the same as when we started the game, I was still able to sweep through their few Pokémons. After one-shotting all of their Pokémons and taking a little bit of damage from Rough Skin, we have to listen to Archie for a while, and after that we have to take on the next fight against our rival. For this one I was not very worried, as previously mentioned, her starter cannot do all that much to me, and the rest of the team is not exactly very powerful at the moment. So, after a few headbutts to the face, we are done with her too and can proceed to the next town over, where we have to face Watson. Here I could have bought a flamethrower from the casino, but since Salamance just learned Ember, I thought it would not be needed. And while that was the case, some extra power might not have hurt in the long run. The fight against the gym leader was not very hard though, since the only threatening Pokemon is a Magneton, and since I have a fire move, today it was quite easy to defeat him. Surprisingly, Manectric lived quite a few hits from Headbutt. I either have very low attacking EVs, or maybe I just overestimated Salamance's power. One way or the other, Watson is defeated too, and now we can resume our journey. Eventually we reach Meterful Caves, where we find the two evil teams arguing, and after a few more steps we can climb on top of the volcano and face Maxi. Since I am using a physical attacker today, this fight against him and pretty much all of the next ones will be a bit annoying, since my Tiena will lower my attack with Intimidate, and there is not a whole lot I can do about it. This first fight was still easy, since he does not have many levels and he only has a Zubat, but the next one might not go so well, especially since Camerupt will learn a rock move. After we are done with this too, we can climb down the volcano and face the next gym leader, who is sort of a volcano herself. Flannery mostly uses fire types, and since Dragon resists fire, this gym fight is not particularly hard. It would have been worse if her Camerupt knew any rock move, but since he does not, it turned out to be kind of easy. Torkoal has massive defense, so Headbutt did not do much, and I had to switch to Bite, but overall it was still not a problem. Once we have defeated her too, we have the optional desert, but I always skip it, and then there is the next gym fight against Orded. Norman is a bit scary, mostly because my attack is not that great, so many of his Pokémons will leave a hit. Also, don't mind the normal type Dragon Breath, I will fix it eventually. Of course, the biggest threat in his team is Slacking, since he can do a lot of damage with counter, but since I have a few special moves, I can take advantage of those to ignore it. This might have still been hard if he used Yawn, but since he opted to only use counter, there was not a whole lot he could do. After defeating Norman, we get the Surf HM, and with that we can explore more of the region, until eventually we reach the Weather Institute, where we find the Team Admiral Shelley holding some guys hostages. Of course, instead of calling the police or doing anything like that, we decided to fight her, and fortunately for us, the fight against her was a breeze. Soon after rescuing those people, we are stopped by May for the next fight against her. Her team improved a bit throughout the run, but at this point I am still able to one-shot all of her Pokémons with a Headbutt. That's a bit unfortunate, but realistically there is not much she could do even if she survived. Next is Winona, and I finally fixed the Dragon Breath issue. Don't worry, it should not happen again in future runs. And the fight against her was a bit scary, but not much. The only problem is Altaria, since I went into this fight a bit unprepared, as I should have healed up fully before. I might have underestimated her a little bit, especially because if Altaria got a paralysis with a Dragon Breath or something like that, this would have gone much worse. Since I am still using Ember, the power is not enough to one-shot her Pokémons, even if they are weak to it. Fortunately, they do not have much to throw at me either, so even though the fight takes a good number of turns, I do not risk dying at all. Skarmory tries to be annoying with the sand attack, but it too soon falls to Ember. Next, we have to stop in the next town over for the last fight, against our rival. At this point, her team is actually kinda strong, and it would have been even stronger if she evolved her Slugma into Macargo. Macargo is not a great Pokémon by any means, but it would have added quite a lot to her team. Like, for example, a resistance to normal attacks, and sort of a fire threat. Anyway, after defeating her, we can resume our journey and climb the Pokémon Tower, or at least this version of it, to retrieve the Magma Emblem. With this key item, we can enter the Team Magma hideout and find Maxie waking up Groudon. Of course, he sort of fails in his plans, and so he decides to attack us. As I previously sort of foreshadowed, this fight against him was not super easy. I tried using special moves to ignore the Intimidate, but those do not do that much damage, so his Pokémons were able to survive a few hits anyway. The most problematic thing though was Crobat using Confuse Ray on me. That gave him a couple of turns to really lay some pain on me, taking me down to less than half HP. Fortunately, the next fight against this Team Aqua admin is much easier, even if he still has this damn Mightyena. It too is starting to get on my nerves lately. Anyway, after defeating this guy too, a whole lot of content opens up for us, and after grinding quite a bit against the trainers in the sea, I can take on Tate and Liza. Unfortunately, it did not go well for me. Lunatone kept slapping me, is that a word? Kept putting me to sleep, and then he and the rest of the team finished me off with Psychic. I might have had a better chance if I leveled up a bit more until I got Crunch, but that's all the way at level 60. It seems a bit far, especially considering that Salamance, like every other pseudo-legendary, has this low growth rate, so it takes forever to level him up. Eventually I was able to defeat them, but I did not do much different. I just got a bit more lucky with which moves they chose to use. It was still close though, because in the end I had to defeat Xatu since it had a lot of boost, but I was unable to one-shot him, so they kept using potions on it, while Solrock kept attacking me over and over again. I had to focus on the bird, because if he used Psychic, it would have defeated me at this range. Eventually they ran out of potions, so I can finally finish him off and then Solrock. Now that we have won this double fight, there is another one waiting for us. Yay! At least the one with Steven is a bit simpler, even if there is a lot of Mightyena spam. For this one, I just kept firing off special moves and hoped for the best, really. I know I am immune to Earthquake, so even if Camerupt decides to use it for whatever reason, it will do nothing to me. I am unsure whether they have Rock Slide or not, but once I defeated both of them, it does not matter anymore. I was expecting Golbat and Crobat to be more of a problem, but this time they went down without causing any major issues. Instead, Mightyena sort of was the problem, since with Swagger I had to hit myself a couple of times. At least, since my attack is only +1, I do not end up doing that much damage to myself, even with the lowered defense. After finally defeating Maxi for the last time, we are given the Dive HM and can use it to reach the seafloor cave. Here we find Kyogre sleeping and Archie arrives to wake it up. Since we do not want that to happen, we challenge him to a duel, and once again, my Tiena proves to be a thorn in my side, at least for the start, because once again I am subject to Swagger, which this time around actually sort of helps me. Since I now have +1 in attack, I can finish off the rest of his team in one hit, and this went quite a bit better than I expected. Even if we won the fight, the red orb activates and wakes up the legendary, so now the region is in deep trouble. To fix this problem, we had to go climb the sky pillar, and ask Rayquaza for help. Of course, since he is a good soul, he helps us out by screaming at the two legendaries. Hey, if it works, it works. And then we can finally take on the last gym. I thought this one would be easy, but an Ice Beam and then Aurora Beam from his Pokémons defeated me quite fast. Yeah, I kinda forgot that Salamance has a 4-time weakness to ice, and fortunately for us, this did not come up much so far, but the late game has different plans, let's put it that way. In the second time around, Kingdra did not use the ice move, so I was able to reach Celia with more HP, and so I could tank 1 or even 2 hits if necessary, and with that I could defeat him and the rest of the team that followed. Now that we have obtained the last badge, we can use all of the HMs and can enter the Victory Road. Here we are immediately stopped by Wally, who wants to challenge us. And what a glow up! His team is quite dangerous. First off is Altaria, who has dragon moves, but since we have those two, it's an easy KO. Unfortunately for him, the rest of the team is an easy KO with Return, other than Magneton, who goes down to a flamethrower. Well, at least they gave Wally a proper team, not like what they did with May. Not going to lie, I was a bit worried about the league. There are a couple of trainers who have a few ice moves, and that worried me a lot. But let's take things in order. First is Sidney, who defeated me. Yeah, bad RNG caused me to lose against him once. Even though I have Brick Break, which is super effective on them, since it is physical and not stab, it's actually not enough to one-shot, I think, none of his Pokémons. This caused me to take a lot of status and debuff moves, and so I ended up losing. In the second attempt, I opted for Dragon Claw. It is special, so I can ignore the Intimidate, and it's also stab with a decent base power. While not one-shotting everything, it was good enough to get me through this fight. Next up is Pheobe, who also could be a problem because of the cursing, but fortunately we learned Crunch along the way, and that is enough to take care of her Pokémons mostly. Also, the crit might not have been needed, but it was welcome. Oh yeah, somehow Dusclops has Ice Beam, and even though his special attack is pretty bad, I still lose half of my HP. Yeah, that's going to be a problem in a little bit, huh? The rest of her team is a bit easier, since I can one-shot them with either Crunch or Dragon Claw, and with that we are done with the second Elite Four too. But now it's time for Glacia, and oh boy, I did not have fun with her. One Ice Beam from Walrein is enough to one-shot me from full HP. The crit did not matter, as you can see in the next clip. I could have left and leveled up a little bit, but I decided to use the rare candies and attempt her again at a higher level. I was hoping that with more attack, Brick Break would be enough to one-shot her Pokémons, and while that is mostly true, unfortunately it's not good enough to one-shot the Walrein. Thankfully, by leveling up, all of your stats increase, so with the extra bulk, I was just barely able to leave an Ice Beam. With the extra turn, I was able to defeat her ace, and with that, the third Elite Four is done too. Drake is last, and fortunately this one is going to be much easier. Yeah, sure, he has dragon moves, who will hurt a lot, but A, they are not 4 times super effective, and B, I have those too. And since I am quite a bit higher level than his Pokémons, I am sure to one-shot all of them before they have a turn. With the 4th Elite Four defeated, we only have the champion left, but this was a hard fight. You see, even though he specializes in water types, those guys are often able to learn many ice moves. In fact, half of his team knows at least one of them. And considering the fact that they are very bulky, yeah, you can see how this ended up for me. I quickly gave up and left to level up a bit more, came back at level 80, and even then it was still sort of a hard fight, because I forgot to equip the Silk Scarf. I'm not sure if that was the only reason, or if in this attempt I got a much better damage roll, but my Lotic went down in a single hit, saving me a ton of HP. Now that the ice beaming Pokémons are over, the rest of the fight is going to be a lot simpler, especially because their stab water moves are resisted, so there is no way they can defeat me now. Well, okay, there are a couple of ways. First off, Gyarados could boost, but he is defeated too fast. And second, Ludicolo could spam double team and whatnot, but fortunately that strategy does not work. So finally, after a much larger number of resets than I was initially expecting, Salamance became the champion. Maybe there was some poor play on my part, but the 4-time weakness to ice, combined with the lack of boosting moves, made this run a lot harder than it might seem at first glance. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, share, subscribe and whatnot. If you have any comments, feedback, video ideas, etc., leave them down in the comments. Otherwise, see you next week. Bye!